Welcome to the Mental Dietitian Podcast. I'm your host, Ahren Lynch-potter. This is episode 46, and it's the last one for 2022. And it's been a year. It's been an amazing year. I'm excited to share this episode with you, and I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do going into 2023 to help you achieve your goals. And really making sure that you don't ignore these 3 things, because I truly believe that if you do these 3 things, that you will actually start achieving your New Year's resolutions, your new year, new me bullshit that we tell ourselves every year, but most of us don't do. And I actually sat down today. I don't usually sit down and write out a plan for a podcast, but this is part of my evolution. I can't expect to be a professional in this if I'm just winging it all the time. Now, has winging it worked so far? In a way. I usually sit down, I have a subject I want to talk about, and I start breaking down concepts live off the top of my head. But this time I was like, what can I do to really make sure that I'm giving the most value possible? So I sat down yesterday and I sat down today and I was like, you know what? These are the 3 things that I really, really think that if somebody implements in their life, especially the first few months of 2023, you will start achieving the goals that you want to set for yourself, and you'll start becoming the person that you want to become. So I'm going to talk about these 3 things, these 3 strategies, these 3 concepts that everybody needs to know. Concept number 1, consistency always beats intensity. You cannot like go to a dentist. You gotta book your dentist appointment. You haven't brushed your teeth all year, and you brush your teeth that entire week, 24 hours a day, just before that dentist appointment. It's a week out. You can't not brush your teeth for a year, then brush your teeth for a year straight and expect to have a nice smile. You can't eat like shit for 20 years and expect a 7-day juice cleanse to fix all your damn problems. Consistency always beats intensity. Intensity is based on motivation. It's a feeling, and everybody gets really intense at the start of the year. That's why all the gyms are full. Everybody goes into the gym and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. That's just in the morning. I'll do 2 hours in the morning and I'll do 2 hours at night. And I'm going to lose these pounds that I've always wanted to lose these last 20 years. No, you won't. No, you will not. Consistency is based on systems. Intensity is based on emotion. It's really kind of a motivating feeling. And intensity is not something that most people can maintain. Now, people would be like, oh, well, how about it be consistent and intense? It's like, well, yeah, good for you if you can do that. But most people, I'm specifically talking about health, and I'm specifically talking about going to the gym, because when I was a personal trainer, and I was a personal trainer for a few years, I saw thousands of people come into the gym in the January, February period. Most of them would last a month and they would be intense. But like I said, you can't not brush your teeth for an entire year and expect to have a nice smile if you brush your teeth for a week straight. But that's most people's mentality. Consistency always beats intensity. So if you can have systems in your life where Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m., you do this. And if you consistently do these things, you will get the results you want. If you fall in love with the systems in your life, like, okay, as long as the systems that I have are in place, I will achieve my goals. And then you can create your goals around the systems you have in your life, not I want to be 30 pounds lighter by this date. You will be 30 pounds lighter by that date if you have the systems in place, which is 3 times a week I do this, 4 times a week I'd potentially do this. I have my meals planned. I have things consistently in place, and it's not based on emotion. It is now based on the systems you have, and it's more based thinking versus emotion. So that leads me into strategy number 2, which is identity-based habits. Now, this is probably the biggest one in my opinion, and I'm going to give you an analogy from a book which you all should read, Atomic Habits by James Clear. If there is a book to read right now, going into the new year in 2023, Atomic Habits by James Clear is that book. Now, he has this analogy in that book, and I love it so much, and I use it all the time, and I quote it with people all the time. There's 2 people. They're both trying to give up smoking. The first one gets offered a cigarette, and they say, "No, thank you. I'm trying to quit." Person number 2 gets offered a cigarette. "No, thank you. I'm not a smoker." Now, the first person still identifies themselves as a smoker who is trying to quit, right? The second person's identity is, "I'm not a smoker." That's not in congruency with who I am. I am not that. Now, I'm going to hit you with an amazing quote, which I don't know if I heard it or if I made it up. I don't know. Most people don't have original thoughts. Healthy people don't go on diets. Unhealthy people do. If you can really understand that if you're looking for a diet, or if you're looking for a keto diet or a juice cleanse or whatever it may be, you're still an unhealthy person. You haven't changed your identity. So it will take time to change your identity, but you do it by casting votes for the person you want to become. So every time you take an action, it's a vote for the person you are going to become. So if somebody's like, "Oh, well, I never voted to be 300 pounds. Yes, you did. Every time you ate food or did things that were in alignment with being 300 pounds, you were casting votes. By every swallow you took, everything you put in your mouth, all the pop you drank, you were voting to become that person. I didn't say you liked it, but you voted for it. Now, here's the crazy thing. Here's the crazy thing about identity-based habits. It takes time. Now, I wrote this note yesterday, and I wanted to share it with you. Your identity is based on evidence from your past choices. That's why you have to start casting votes for your new identity. Now, your current identity of who you believe yourself to be is based on all your evidence from the past. Now, if your evidence from the past, if you're struggling with weight, if you're struggling with emotional things where you explode and you're angry all the time, your identity is that. Now, the only way to change that is over time. But the more votes you cast for this new identity of who you really want to become, then the evidence starts stacking up in the past. And you can start looking, I've been consistent for a month. I've been consistent for 2 months. I've been consistent for 3 months. And what that does is it slowly starts shifting your identity away from that smoker or that unhealthy person or that alcoholic. And it starts shifting it to a more positive, more loving of oneself identity. This is one of my favorite ones. It's just that identity, it's so powerful. And I really think that if people really understood this, and hopefully you understand this analogy with the smoker's analogy. If you really understood that, it's like, well, why don't you make the money that you want to make? Well, because your identity is still stuck. You have a $50,000 a year identity or a $100,000 a year identity, and your identity is tied to that. And this goes for me too. I have a certain way that I look with my body because that's what my identity thinks that I am. Now, could I push it more? Yes, but my identity isn't there right now. Or why don't I make $500,000 a year? Because my identity isn't there yet. But if I start taking actions and start thinking, you know what would that person do? What would a healthy person do? What would a millionaire do? What would somebody who's emotionally stable do right now? And then you start casting votes every day with the actions that you take. And every day you start building that new identity. Number 3, those 2 are amazing, but without number 3, I think it'll be hard. And this is accountability. Accountability of some sort. Now, you could have it through friends, family, social media. You could have an accountability buddy. Or you could do PDA, public display of accountability. You could go on your social media, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do by this date, and call me out if I don't. That's a big one. Most people won't want to do that because maybe they're not motivated by that, and maybe it'll actually demotivate them when everybody's like, hey, Francine, how's the 50 pounds of weight loss doing? And you're still eating Cheetos and ice cream every night. But maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's what you need. Everybody knows what they need. It could be friends, family, like I said, a public display of a public display of accountability through social media, or at your work, or with your family. You get up at the dinner table and like, hey, this is what I'm doing by this date. If I'm not there, call me on my bullshit. And people love calling other people on their bullshit. People love it. Some people get a kick out of it. So, number one, consistency always beats intensity. Number two, identity-based habits. Start casting votes for the person you want to become. Number three, some form of accountability. They're the three things that I really sat down and was like, what stops people from achieving the better version of themselves that they want to be? The biggest one is identity. The biggest one is who you believe that you are is where you are in your life right now. You make $30,000 a year because that's all you think you're worth. You are 50 pounds overweight because that's what you think you're worth. The older I get, the more I truly believe that, my friend Marcus says this all the time. It's an amazing concept to really consider. If I truly loved myself, what would I do right now? Or what would I stop doing right now? And this might be a blunt statement, but if somebody's really, really overweight, they don't love themselves. And we have all this fat acceptance, and people don't like that terminology or whatever. But if somebody is heavily overweight, they are not healthy. They will die. They will die young. And there's nothing wrong with loving exactly who you are right now. Amazing. But I don't believe it. I don't believe it if you're really overweight. If you're 5'5" and you're 300 pounds, you're going to have sore joints. You're going to have a poorer quality of life than if you were a healthy weight, because you can do things. There's things that you can do. And we know that being overweight will damage your health. So if you truly loved yourself, truly from the bottom of your heart, and you love everything about you, and you wanted an amazing life where you could impact people and have a long, healthy life where you could travel, exercise, do all these amazing things, you wouldn't be 300 pounds. I don't believe that. I think that that is bullshit. It all comes down to how much do I love myself? And how much you love yourself and how much you care about yourself will be reflected in how much money you make. It will be reflected in the relationships that you have in your life. It will be reflected in how you look, how your health is, how you feel every day. It will be reflected in what you feed yourself. It will be reflected if you smoke or drink too much. It all comes back down to how much you love yourself. And the crazy thing is, the more you cast votes for that new identity, the more you are voting for your worthiness, your value, your love of yourself. And then that's what builds confidence. And that's when everything starts expanding in your life. Hope you enjoyed these 3 strategies, which will make your 2023 better. And I'm really looking forward to blowing up in 2023 and making this much bigger and impacting more people and talking about these concepts that people are not taught in school and that I feel obligated to talk about because these things have helped me. So love you guys. Hope you had an amazing 2022, and 2023 can be amazing too, only if you choose it to be. Talk to you next week. Bye.